the more relevant your SEO, the cheaper your pay-per-click.
Okay.
The more page authority that you have with your SEO that your website is built on, the more cost-effective and also optimized your pay-per-click is.
Welcome to Modern Marketing Messages, the leading podcast discussing the latest and greatest in both online and offline marketing tactics, strategies, and trends. I'm your host, Taylor Karg, marketing content writer at AmericanEagle.com. We are back with another one-on-one interview with a marketing expert. Joining us today is Heather Comiskey, a seasoned PPC expert from AmericanEagle.com's digital marketing team. Whether you're an expert marketer looking to refine your PPC approach or a business owner wondering if paid search is worth the investment, this episode is packed with insights to help you make the most out of your advertising dollars. Let's get started. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with just you introducing yourself. How long have you been working in digital marketing? Specifically, talk about PPC, what brought you to AmericanEagle.com, all the good stuff.
Yeah, so I have been doing digital marketing and PPC related marketing since 2016. I started at a nonprofit healthcare management center, and with the nonprofit, you get to learn a lot and you get to do a lot, which was amazing. So I got to touch basically every aspect of marketing right at the beginning of my career. And one of those things was PPC. So I've been in it from almost, I think it started in 2012 was the first PPC launch of Google, but I've been doing it since 2016. So about 8 years now.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the people that I've talked to in our company who got their start at nonprofits or associations or something like that, they say they learn kind of every aspect of marketing in that because of just the way things are structured in there in those types of businesses. So I'm sure you learned a lot.
I did. And it was really valuable.
I'm sure.
And then what brought me here is one of our coworkers referred me. She loves working here, and she thought I would be a great fit when there was a PPC spot that opened up, and I was like, sign me up. So
love
that's why I came here.
Yeah. So that's it. AmericanEagle.com was really big on who you know and recruiting great people too.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your role here. What's your kind of day-to-day like?
So I am a PPC specialist. So I do pay-per-click advertising for our clients that sign on to that service. And basically my day-to-day for them is, going through the accounts, making sure that all the campaigns that we have running align with the goals that each of our businesses have. So not all of our businesses are retail or consumer based or something like that. So we also have lead generation. We also have really niche businesses that maybe phone calls or in-store visits are their top goal. So I go through all the campaigns pretty much every day to make sure that everything's working correctly. We're not seeing any significant downturns in any of the campaigns that are running. And then just overall trends to make sure all of their numbers are increasing, basically.
So would you say you have a variety of clients in different industries here? Or how does that work?
Yeah. So what's great about AmericanEagle.com is that all of our PPC specialists and really all of our specialists in general are really, really good at the specific strategy and focus that they're in. So it doesn't really matter necessarily what type of business comes through. It's more so we're focused on the goals. So my clients range from very niche, small brick and mortar businesses to very large e-commerce, retail, and even online only stores. We also have business to business or lead gen clients. So anyone who's looking to get a lot of business to business, you don't just go to a business and say, hey, I want to buy your service.
Yeah.
You go through a process where you have a quote, you have a back and forth of what the needs are and how to negotiate that. So pretty much everything that I do centers around what the goals of the business are, which allows us and me specifically to service a variety of clients.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think, that's how you continuously sharpen your skills too, is working with all different kinds of clients with different needs and different goals and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So we just talked about, your role at AmericanEagle.com. Let's go way, way back. What just sparked your interest in PPC back then in the beginning, and why did that kind of help you take the next step in your career as a specific PPC specialist?
Yeah. So, again, I started doing pretty much everything that you could. So it was really nice because I was able to compare what different marketing channels existed and what fit with what I liked. And the thing I really, really loved about PPC is it is the perfect balance of being creative, but also being really strategic and data driven.
Mm-hmm.
I love both of those aspects. I am not necessarily a math person, but I like the numbers and patterns that emerge when you are getting all of this data and you're seeing all of these inputs, and you can really apply that to like a real world situation. And then also the creative part, like there's very strict guidelines on how long the like titles can be and how long the descriptions can be.
Yeah.
And how do you convey your message or your business's or your client's message within that specific
allotted number.
structure.
Word count, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then also like it's really nice too because we also have the creative. So it's like the images, the design, like the colors, like what is going to be most impactful to someone who's seeing this ad for maybe like a split second, and like is it going to grab their attention? So for me, I loved the balance of that. And then going through, email marketing, social marketing, like even like editing and brochures and websites and stuff like that. I just found like this really spoke to both sides of the marketing aspect that I loved.
Yeah, I love that. So do you have experience writing the actual copy that goes onto these too?
Yeah, so I actually, a big part of my early career in the marketing space was actually copy editing.
Oh, awesome.
So grammar is also super important, but it's really nice that I have that base because I do write all of my copy for my clients.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it's something, we do have an amazing content team here, but because of the specifics, like I mentioned with the like word count and the character count, sometimes it's just a lot faster for me to be able to write that content. And then I'll show it to the clients. We'll discuss if they have any edits. We'll talk through them. And then as long as they're happy with what this looks like, we'll publish it. Yeah. So it's really nice being able to do that as well.
Yeah. And especially because you're the one, working with the client day in and day out. So their business, their industry, what they're going to like, what's going to spark their interest and their customers' interest.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the industry as a whole. What do you think has been the most significant change in PPC advertising during your career?
So I think the biggest change has been all of the privacy laws and restrictions that have been coming out these past few years.
Yeah.
As a consumer, I think they are so important, and I fully agree with all of these regulations that are being passed. But as someone who works in the PPC side, it is more difficult to work around those regulations to protect our consumers' privacy.
Yeah.
There's a lot less data that we have access to now than we did 3 years ago even. So it's really important to be able to reach our customers while also maintaining that balance of giving them privacy on the internet.
It's funny because as marketers, we see both sides of it, because we are consumers ourselves, but we're also marketers, and that's the industry we work in. So it's funny to, try to balance both in our career and our, personal lives.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so funny because there's definitely ads I get where I'm like, ooh, I remember clicking on this website and I remember why I'm getting this ad right now. And that's interesting because I definitely allowed all cookies for that particular website. Sometimes I do that strategically because I'm like, I want to see other options for something that I'm shopping for because I don't know what I don't know. So I would love to see that. But another thing is, and I'm sure we'll talk about this too because this is like a big topic, but Google Ads is getting a lot easier to use, which is really nice for just everyone. But it also, because it's easier, it's now more competitive. So
yeah. I guess I didn't even think about that because I was thinking about, like businesses who may not have, the budget to hire an outside agency, they could kind of learn and figure that out themselves. But then, I didn't even think about the
there's a lot of resources.
How has the shift toward automation and machine learning tools like Google Performance Max impacted how you approach PPC campaigns?
Yeah. So the amount of new options available, especially with AI and machine learning and all the data that's coming in, accessible or not accessible due to privacy reasons, the landscape is changing a lot. So how does that impact me? Well, I just have to be thinking more strategically when I'm setting stuff up now. Performance Max is an amazing campaign tool because it is so broad reaching. It touches a lot of aspects of the internet that something like a traditional search campaign doesn't. But it's also like you have to be really strategic and you really have to know your audience when you're doing something like that, because it is so broad reaching that, you know, you might not actually be hitting the people that you want to hit with something like that. So, and then that in combination with the AI and like the machine learning, if you start off with an audience that may not be the best, that's what the machine learning is using to gather data and then serve it to other audiences, which if that initial audience isn't correct or like the person that you're trying to find, then like you're building off something that is not actually what you want. So,
wow. Okay. Yeah. I didn't even think about that either.
Yeah. So you really, it's like, it's really fun because it's really accessible and there's a lot more applications, but then you also have to think a little bit harder about how you want to reach that target person.
Yeah. You said that Performance Max helps you or helps businesses reach areas of the internet that they otherwise wouldn't. Can you explain that a little bit? Like, is there an example?
Yeah, so Performance Max campaigns service all of Google's owned properties. So that's YouTube, that's the shopping feed, that is like maps or like discovery pages, that's Gmail. So like it hits on other places in the internet that aren't just a traditional Google search, which is what like most campaigns traditionally are based off of. So we're getting into this new space where we're going outside of just like someone Googling something, and it's kind of showing like, I know for me personally, I get so many like Gmail ads and they're just like those little tags that show up in your email box. Yeah. And like some of them are really relevant and some of them are not so relevant. But it's more upfront. Now with that, sometimes they can cost more. And it really depends on how you set that up too. But it is more visible than just like having a Google search in a lot of aspects, because you're going to places that people are, rather than having the people come to you.
I see. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So in your expert opinion, what are some of the most underrated PPC strategies or tactics that businesses may often overlook?
Yeah. So it's just really hard because everything has a different application.
Yeah.
So I think it's not necessarily underrated or underutilized, but like what would serve you best for your goals? And then being creative around that. So, you know, sometimes brands want to run like a competitor campaign. And I've seen success with the demand gen campaign type with that, because it's specific to your competitors' like emails rather than someone searching for keywords.
Okay.
And you can kind of target websites or user behavior rather than actual search terms, which gives you kind of a wider net to cast. And it's really nice because you're not paying for very, very specific keywords that may be very expensive because another brand is like bigger than you or has more page authority.
I see. Yeah.
But it's really nice because then it also, like I said, targets like the Gmail or the YouTube or like the discovery pages that Google offers, and just kind of allows the customer to compare what they were originally searching for and like learn about you or your business in a different way that might not have happened. So like for, I wouldn't necessarily call it underrated. It's just like you have to think about it strategically.
Yeah. You mentioned something about, you know, the cost for the keywords. This is just a random side question, but what has been like the most expensive price you've seen for a keyword over the years?
Well, okay, so I have a couple tech clients and they partner with Google and also Amazon and AWS, which is like the internet hosting.
Yeah.
Those are very expensive because Amazon is a huge company.
Yeah.
Google is a huge company. They spend a lot of money to protect their names and their brand terms. So even though these are partners and like we're saying like we're with them, it's not against them, those keywords can be very expensive.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Especially, like you said, with big names like Google and Amazon. That makes sense. So, what role does audience targeting and segmentation play in creating successful PPC campaigns?
So I think the biggest thing to think about when you're looking at the role of the audience or the target is your biggest goal, no matter who you are, no matter how big your company is, you want to find the people who are looking for you or your services. And that can be really arbitrary. That can be, some people come to me and they're like, well, I want everyone to find me. And I'm like, I love that. We want everyone to find you also, but we also want to make sure that the people who are finding you look like your customer.
Yeah.
And so the most important, like an example I give is if I want to buy hiking gear, that is a very specific audience. Not everyone wants to buy hiking gear. And for the people who are searching for hiking gear, you have to consider, do they live near places that you would hike?
Right, yeah.
Or if they don't, do they have a lifestyle that allows them to take enough time off to travel to those places? So these are things to consider when you're setting up an ad campaign, because you have to think about location. You have to think about the price of your particular goods and services. And then you have to think about, like, what is the lifestyle of the people who I'm trying to reach? And all of those can be adjusted in the ad campaigns. There's like demographic questions for age, gender, household income. There's also, in addition to that, like you can have search keywords for the ad, but then you can also do content related targeting. So for example, like if the person is outdoorsy, there's an option for like people who are in market for like outdoor activities.
Okay.
So you really want to make sure that you're doing that, because otherwise, if I'm looking for hiking gear that's weatherproof, I might be served tire ads, like all weather tire ads.
Yeah.
And like they're similar, but not.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, outdoors, yes, weatherproof, but completely different industries. So, it's really important to have that person in mind before you even consider setting up a campaign.
Yeah.
Because really that is like the most important thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for any listeners out there that say, I'm already doing like SEO and other types of digital marketing strategies, tactics, whatever, why would I invest in PPC? Can you explain the importance of PPC and the value that it brings?
Yeah. So SEO is super important. Don't get me wrong. It's like you should be investing in that, period, just in general.
I think you kind of have to these days.
Yeah. The internet is changing so fast. All of those AI models work off your SEO and your search engine optimization and like what you have on your website to start with. So that is super important. But PPC really works hand in hand with that.
Okay.
SEO is pretty slow moving in terms of like page authority, getting established, all those keywords on your website. Like that SEO is more organic, whereas PPC is getting your business in front of people not organically.
Yeah.
So the importance of PPC is that it's faster and it helps build up all the SEO work that you're already doing. And then the more relevant your SEO, the cheaper your pay-per-click.
Okay.
The more page authority that you have with your SEO that your website is built on, the more cost-effective and also optimized your pay-per-click is.
Okay.
When Google specifically sees that your page authority is high, it knows and it tells like the internet that your content is super relevant to people who are searching those terms that SEO is building on the website. So PPC reaches like a new audience and expands visibility significantly, but you can't sleep on the fact that SEO is like the base for that. So if you don't have a good SEO strategy, you can still run PPC and you can still get that visibility. And like, there are definitely ways to get around that. It's especially relevant for running PPC with like brand new companies and new websites. Like it really helps bolster your visibility and then can contribute to the SEO. But if you already are investing in SEO, PPC is just like a nice cherry on top and really can expand your visibility with a website that's already credible.
Yeah. That all makes sense. So can you walk us through a particularly successful PPC campaign that you've managed? Could be, here or somewhere else. And then just what factors do you think contributed to its success?
Yeah, so I have two examples just to give our audience a little taste of the type of clients that we have. One super successful campaign that I've run is a very large fashion client.
Okay.
And what made that campaign so successful was they actually hadn't been running ads before they came to us. So they had a really strong SEO, they had really strong page authority, and then they didn't have any account set up. So we built their ad account up from scratch, which was really amazing because we were able to hone in on that audience immediately. So all of that AI learning was building off that audience that was correct from the start.
Yeah.
So it was really, really successful and still is because we are so focused on who their customer is and then finding more people like their customer to have shopping ads shown to. And then also, and then meeting them where they're at. Like if I'm searching for something like a pink evening gown, I want those keywords to be there for that customer who's looking for a pink evening gown who may not have heard of this client before, but this dress is perfect for them. So that's one example. And their budget is a little larger. The fashion industry in general is more expensive because it's more competitive.
Yeah, very competitive.
So I will say that helped as well for them to have a little bit larger of a budget to establish that too. And that was those were all conversations that we had before we started, just to establish expectations going in. The other client that I have that's really successful is a very small brick and mortar, very niche business. Their goal coming into our partnership was getting a 5 times return on ad spend, which is definitely a very doable goal. This was a little more challenging just because of how niche their business is.
Yeah.
So for them, we knew that just the audience in general was a lot smaller, which on some hand made our job easier because they were so specific about who their customer was. But that also gave us a smaller pool of people to target, basically. So we did a multifaceted approach. Because they're a brick and mortar store, we did a hyper local targeted map ad. So basically anyone who's looking for this type of business, it'll show within a 20-mile radius and they could go physically to the store to buy the item, which their in-store visits have increased significantly since we did that. And then in addition to that, we did a Performance Max campaign for the US so that anyone outside of that 20-mile radius who was looking for this type of business could see that this is a US-based business. They don't have to ship anything from overseas. They can get this product in the US and the shipping fees are a lot lower. So that was also a really successful campaign. And it was just, again, being creative and knowing your audience helped both of these. And this smaller business also had a really small budget too. So that was the other thing. When you have such a small budget like that, you really do want to target locally if you can. And then the Performance Max campaign in general is a lot cheaper to run.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot too. But yeah, both of those are going really well, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, I mean, both of those that you talked about, specifically with the the smaller business, those are things that I would have never. Obviously, I'm not in PPC, but it's just interesting to hear.
Yeah,
how you said just thinking creatively and strategically at the same time.
Yeah. How many times have you been on a walk and seen a new business that you didn't know was there and then found out it was there for 5 years?
Many
yeah times. I like walking a lot, and just around our neighborhood there's always small businesses that are opening or have been there and I just haven't seen them yet. So if you're not someone who likes walking, this eliminates that problem and you can discover it when you're looking on maps and you're going places.
Yeah, totally. So I feel like you kind of got into this with talking about that small business and doing local campaigns and stuff, but what is your approach to balancing budget with, high performing PPC campaigns?
Yeah. So from the audience and from building that, you want to make sure that you're staying within budget. That's really important. So many clients do not have an unlimited Amazon budget to use.
Yeah.
So something that we really want to focus on is establishing goals. And like I mentioned, for that really, really small business, they wanted a 5 times return on ad spend. There are different levers that you can pull to adjust bidding targets. So basically, when you set up a campaign, there's so many things to think about. There's the design, there's the copy, there's the display, there's the placement, there's like all of these things that you need to think about. There's like where you want to target, like where are your people?
Yeah.
But in addition to that, when you are scaling and when you're concerned about cost, there is something called a bid adjustment that you can do where you can target your return on ad spend. So if I set a campaign for $10 a day spend, I can also set a target goal for a 2 times return on ad spend for that campaign at the $10 a day. What that will do is it will allow Google's machine learning to find the people who are spending at least 2 times the amount on the products.
Oh, okay.
And then gear it towards people who are more likely to spend that target amount. So there are pros and cons to that, right? So when you're setting something like that, you're going to expect less visibility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not every single person is going to spend that amount. So you have to temper your expectations with how many impressions or clicks you're going to get when you set something like that, because not everyone who clicks to your website is going to spend that amount of money. So like your clicks are going to decrease. However, theoretically, your sales and the revenue is going to increase by setting something like that. The other thing I'll recommend too is the way that Google works is you have to have at least 30 days of data and 5 conversions during those 30 days in order to make something like that target adjustment really successful.
Okay.
Because if you don't have any conversions, Google doesn't know what that return looks like and who that person is. Mm-hmm. So what I recommend in terms of scaling is starting at a more broad setting. So if you're, you want sales, you want visibility, you want clicks, but you can set the campaign to a max conversion target and then see what conversions come in. And then you can see if those conversions match your goals and expectations, and then turn on that target return on ad spend setting.
Okay, I see.
So you don't want to do that right away. You want the data to come in first before you scale. It's not going to be something that you can do immediately. You have to be patient. So when I have clients that want that as a goal, I do let them know that this is more of a long-term goal. Like it's not going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be like 30 days. We need to look and see what this is going to do before we start increasing that number.
Which 30 days really isn't that long when you think about it. I know like with money and stuff, but in terms of like SEO and actually seeing results from SEO and making adjustments there, that could take years. But like PPC, at least, you can only wait 30 days before you can make adjustments and kind of see some quick wins.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, in general, PPC campaigns should be no less than 2 weeks long. So even if you're going to do something, because that's how long it takes the data to come in and for the AI and machine learning to like learn and process all of that information. So if you're looking for quick wins, you absolutely can run a campaign shorter than that, especially if your goal is like visibility and you just want impressions and you just want people to come to the website. Totally, totally manageable with an under 2 week time frame. But if you're doing something longer term and you're trying to build your business, at least 30 days.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any common mistakes you've seen businesses make in their strategies, and how can these mistakes be avoided?
Yeah, so one of the most common mistakes that I see, which isn't even necessarily a mistake, it's more reading the data basically, but a lot of clients come to us with established ad campaigns and the target will be the entire US just as like one big block of a country.
Yeah.
And that is amazing. I'm glad that you're targeting the US, but like, are your customers coming from Idaho?
Yeah.
Are they coming from New York? Like, where in the US are they coming from? Because that's really important for us. And when you just target the entire US, you're not seeing like where your actual traffic is coming from.
Yeah.
You can, of course, see that in GA4, and there's other like analytics tools connected that you can parse out that information. But if you want it immediately available and you want the machine learning to optimize, you would want to break out those states. That's one big thing I see. Another, I wouldn't call this a mistake. This is just something to keep in mind. You really want to watch where your traffic is coming from. So like, we live in a society where people are on their laptops, they're on their phones, they're on their tablets. Like they could be all three at once. And where are people most engaging with you?
Right. Yeah.
We've seen a trend go from desktop to mobile devices, and like how much money are you spending on a mobile device ad versus a desktop ad? And those could correlate with your revenue and like people making purchases, but they could also be polar opposites. So like someone could see you on a phone and then actually purchase on a laptop, or someone could see you on a laptop and then be busy and purchase on a phone.
Yeah.
But where are you spending your money? So that's just something to keep in mind. That is always like a fun little data point to point out to clients.
Do you see, or I'm wondering, like businesses, do they normally do both mobile and desktop, or is it really just kind of dependent on the business and, like you said, where their traffic is coming? But do you see clients either do both, or is it more common to kind of parse it out?
You definitely want to do all of the devices.
Yeah.
But it really depends. So like some of my clients who are more industrial, big purchase, big screen.
Yeah.
Little
like
purchase, little
flight.
screen.
I'm like, I cannot be caught buying a flight on my phone.
Exactly. If I'm going to be spending $60,000 on like an industrial mixer, I'm probably not going to be doing that on my phone.
Yeah.
So
totally.
it's really nice to see that on my phone and say, ooh, I've never heard about this company before. I should go check this out, and then like move to a bigger screen to do that, or even pick up a phone like and actually call.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another benefit too. And that's why we like to have the spread, because if someone is going to call, like they're most likely already on their phone.
Totally. Yeah.
And then they can call that business when they're on their phone because they saw like an ad or something like that. So you don't want to do one or the other.
Yeah. Like, but you should yourself into.
You should take a look at though, like, you know, how big are these purchases and like where are they coming from?
Yeah, that makes sense. So in your opinion, which PPC platforms do you think offer the most opportunity right now? And Google ads, Microsoft ads, social media ads, what does that landscape look like?
Yeah, so they all are so different. I know that they may not seem different for people who are not like doing this day to day, but they really are different. And I think that there's opportunities for all of them. I will say Bing and Microsoft ads are a very interesting landscape for advertising. I see a lot of businesses testing ads on those platforms. It's really interesting because like Bing is still not like necessarily the most used search engine.
Yeah.
So you could say like, oh, well, there's less competition on there, and you would be correct. So, but does your business actually serve the people who are
searching on
Bing? Exactly. Something really cool about Bing is Microsoft owns LinkedIn. So the Bing advertisements actually are able to use the demographic qualifiers that LinkedIn has.
Oh.
So job industry, job title, like organization size, stuff like that. So if you are a business who primarily sells to other businesses, that might be a good platform to test just because of those different demographic levers that you can pull.
Yeah.
I still think Google is probably one of the best platforms just because it is so universal. And the thing about Google, especially if you're like a retail business, they have the shopping tab.
Yeah.
So not to like poo-poo social media, which is also very, very relevant for shopping specifically. But Google has like the shopping comparison that you can do.
Okay.
So I still think there's a ton of opportunity there. And then for social media, the landscape is changing so significantly. There's been a whole discussion about TikTok. Right. And people are buying things off TikTok. Yeah. Small businesses are getting incredible visibility off TikTok.
Thriving off of TikTok.
Yes, because that algorithm is so specific. So like, someone who is into a very niche hobby can be introduced to a store that they've never heard of that does that exact thing for their hobby. And like, that's amazing. So like, I always encourage all of my clients, if they have the bandwidth and capability and resources, to really test all of the platforms and just see, because you never know what's going to catch someone's attention. So yeah,
I got you. So what is one tool or software that you use in your day-to-day that you can't imagine, operating without?
So I'm going to sound like a huge nerd when I say this, but Excel.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So the Google Ads platform is really nice. It has a lot of data, but sometimes when I'm trying to see like what the best path forward is, I download all of that into Excel and I do pivot charts.
Okay.
Because I want to see where the
trends are. Can you teach me how to do those?
Yeah.
I get so confused every time. I'm like, what am I doing?
I know a lot about Excel. Formulas are fun too. Like
it's a great skill to have.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's so much you can do. Like truly, Excel has been around for like 30 plus years for a reason.
Yeah.
And it really is great. It's really, really nice. And you can like highlight the cells to like show the colors for like how much something is. So like,
yeah, see, I don't even know any of these things because I just get so lost.
Yeah. If I have like 3,000 data points and I don't want to look through all of that, I can just make Excel do stuff for me, and then I don't have to read through every single line.
And I mean, understandably so. I don't think anyone wants to read through 3,000 data points.
Yeah, so that's really great. Another one is there is a tool within Google called Keyword Planner.
Okay.
And it's really nice because it actually uses all of Google's data to forecast trends. So if I am trying to be proactive and strategic, which I always do, I want to look and see what keywords are trending. Some of my businesses are seasonal, so I can see when would be a good time to add this keyword to this campaign to catch that early seasonal traffic before it gets too competitive.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
What tools do you use for analytics purposes? You said, like Google Analytics 4. Is there anything else?
Yeah, so it's really hard to predict trends, and pretty much wherever you go, there's going to be bias in the data. So in terms of analytics, Google Analytics 4, definitely, that's GA4 that we've been talking about, is very, very helpful because it shows your entire like website health.
Yeah.
And it shows all of the channels. So like GA4 is a really great resource because it shows website, SEO, social media. Like it has all that traffic from all of those places and how users interact with your business. So that is like a super, super helpful tool. Something I've been experimenting with too is there is a platform on Google called Google Trends.
Google Trends, okay.
Yeah, if you Google Trends, you'll be put into that space and you can basically just put like a theme in there and see what's trending.
Huh. Okay, interesting.
I have found limited success with it because I don't think it's used very often, and it's like mostly based off like news articles, and those can be old sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's also really hard to predict trends. Like you never know what's going to become popular. Like you can guess, and if someone could tell me with certainty, they would be a millionaire.
Right.
Like it's really crazy what becomes viral and what doesn't. So yeah, I would say GA4 is definitely king still.
Okay. How do you see AI and machine learning continuing to influence, PPC advertising? And what does that look like in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to make it a lot easier and more accessible for businesses. So I think that is an amazing thing. Like truly for small businesses that need help or just want to expand, like it's going to be amazing for them because it's so much more accessible than it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And just the visibility that the machine learning allows is incredible. So I think that is amazing. Obviously with that, it comes with more competition.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot more advertising going on. And I think we're already seeing that, to be honest. Like when
Oh
you
my
Google
gosh,
something, like
yeah.
the first like 10 results are advertisements. And honestly, kind of annoying. Even to me, I'm like, wow, this is a little much. But
even on social media now too, I've noticed like Instagram is every time you're scrolling, there's an ad every like 2 reels or every 2 stories or something. And it's like, this is a lot.
It's a lot. And it is a lot, but it's also amazing for those businesses that have the opportunity to be in that space.
Yeah.
So
and be successful because of it.
Exactly. And so we just have to watch out for that competition that's coming. But the other thing that I'm really excited about is like these increasing innovations that are happening with this. So like Performance Max is a great example of that. It has become one of my most used campaign types.
Okay.
So it's just like it has so many different applications. And I really hope that we continue to see different campaign types being like presented or like created because of these opportunities that we have.
Yeah. Love that. What advice would you give to a company that's looking to improve their, paid search performance? Where do they start?
So where would you start with anything? Know who your audience is. Before we even do anything with our clients, we have a meeting where we talk about what is the goal. Make those goals SMART goals, like make them attainable, or at least have a number in mind for what that goal is. Because if you just come to us and you say, I want to increase revenue, great. I love that. I would also like to increase your revenue. Like, what is the timeline? What percentage of increase would you like to see? All of the percentage of increase is not an answer. Like I need have something in mind.
Target.
Do you want to see 5% in 3 months? Great. Let's figure out how to make that happen. So I would say my advice in general when someone's trying to look into PPC is have goals in mind, have an audience in mind. The other thing I'll say to that is PPC is an amazing tool because it increases your visibility and you can find new audiences that have never heard about you before. And then that just like exponentially increases on each other, especially if you have an amazing product, which all of my clients do. So it's really nice to get that out in front of people. But you really, it's just a tool in the toolbox. You have to make sure that your website has a good user experience. If you have an incredible product and it's like so painful to check out on your website, you're going to lose people.
Yeah, no one's going to do it.
Yeah. So like it really is something that you have to look at holistically as part of something that works in a system.
Yeah.
It's a great keystone in an already amazing strategy if you're building that like up one brick at a time. So like, user experience, SEO, PPC, all of these things, you can do them independently and people do all the time, but it really is magic when it works all together.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to note, like any other digital marketing tactic, PPC, SEO, it's not kind of just like a set it and forget it kind of thing. It takes continuous iteration and learning from the data and tweaking and figuring out, what's working for your business.
Oh, exactly. And because everything is changing so much all the time in technology and like with AI.
And Google, I'm like, I can keep up with all the updates all the time.
Every month, they don't email us about this. Like we find these changes when we go into the system and find that the thing that we thought was there isn't there
no
anymore.
Longer there.
Yeah. So like, it's really, you don't just do SEO once and that's it. You don't do PPC once and that's it. You really have to be working at making sure that you're keeping up with all of the updates that is happening out on the internet too. So like they're like Google and also so many other like sites are crawling your website for keywords and information all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what they deem as important information changes. So like a long time ago, it was as many keywords as you could possibly put in your page that would make you be at the top
number
of the search
spot.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like, is your content relevant? Are people clicking on your stuff and then staying on your website?
And don't keyword stuff. So all those keywords that you added in your content, you got to be way more intentional about
exactly, because they'll actually penalize you for that. So, oh, you have 5 keywords in your headline?
Nope.
Yeah.
That's black hat SEO.
Exactly. Yeah. So you really have to be intentional, and content is king. So even in ads, in SEO, on your website, blogs are super important. I know, well, speaking to a marketing content writer, like blogs are so important because you have that knowledge there for people to use.
Yeah, totally. So for someone looking to specialize in PPC, just starting out in their career, what skills would you recommend they focus on building up?
So for people who are early career or still in school, I would definitely recommend doing business marketing and media as a focus.
Okay.
If you have the opportunity and this is what you want to do, or at least explore and go into, start with the basics. I can't stress enough how important it is to understand like your audience as a people, like as how they think, and then like the economic impacts things can have on how someone decides to purchase something.
Yeah.
And that's all something that you would learn in a business program. And then with the focus in media, like there's so much happening, like we've been discussing throughout, just new innovations and programs that you can use that are specific to the internet that you could like focus in. So that would be what I recommend for someone who's looking to go into this as like an early career person, or like someone who's still in school.
Yeah.
If you're not still in school and you want to start learning this, Google, and I guess even if you are in school, but Google offers a whole certification program for digital marketing that is completely free. Some of the modules are more time consuming than others, but it is an amazing resource, and it is, again, completely free. So if you have like a weekend and you want to start doing this, you just create an account and you start going through the modules. And it's like,
can't beat that.
Exactly. I mean, they're the ones who are
making the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like this is their program. So like the information is there. Another thing I would recommend is reading, like being able to read and process data is so important, because the decisions that you make as a marketing person in, I think, any aspect really relies on like what people are doing and what people are buying. So like learn how to investigate the results that are coming in for whatever business you're in.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah, super important.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how you make, better, smarter decisions is based on the data.
Yeah. And it's also, you might feel like something's working and then you look at the data and you're like, that's not working actually. Maybe I should try something else, because it looks like this one thing over here is actually working a lot better, even though I didn't think it would. Yeah. So I'm just going to go over here and try this other thing. And hey, the data didn't lie and it works. Yeah.
I was just about to say, data doesn't lie, unless your like instance is set up incorrectly, and then but that's a whole other beast we won't talk about.
Unless J4 breaks and then you like can't track anything and you're like, oh.
What's one piece of advice that you've gotten in your professional career that's really stuck out for you?
So this is again when I was working at the nonprofit, and someone said this to me and I was like, oh my gosh, and my world exploded. But basically they were like, respond, don't react. You have time to think through the decisions that you're making. You have time to process the information that you're receiving. You don't have to act on every single information input that is coming to you right now. It doesn't matter. If someone says that it's imperative and you have like a 5-minute deadline, no. Yeah. You have 4 minutes to consider the options and pause and think through what you're doing. And I think that has really helped me, because there are deadlines in life, right? Like there are deadlines in campaigns, there's deadlines for what you're selling, like these things exist, and you still have time to think through what the next move is going to be and how you want to work through it. Yeah,
I think that's honestly fabulous advice. And I think that goes with your professional career as well as, at home personally, and, just take a step back and be not, reacting on emotion or an immediate reaction too can definitely help keep a lot of situations kind of even keeled.
Exactly.
So my last question for you, when you're not working on campaigns or working for our lovely clients, what is a hobby or interest you enjoy outside of work?
So I have been studying classical music for a
Really?
really, really long
Okay.
time. So I am in a classical choir that performs 4 concerts a year.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it's like Mozart and like Beethoven
Wow,
like type stuff.
yeah.
So I really enjoy that. It's really intense. It's like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like a huge nerd when I say that.
Oh
but
my
like,
gosh.
yeah,
No, I love that.
yeah, it's
That
super
sounds
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, and then I also my hiking example earlier was relevant because I do want to try to cross all the national parks off the list for like
Dang.
hiking and
Yeah,
visiting
and
them.
how many have you done so far?
So far, I've done 3.
Well, I mean, that's 3
Great
more
start.
than I probably will ever do in my life. So
Yeah, so it's a nice combination of like doing inside things and doing outside things.
yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a lot about PPC and you just had a lot of great insights to share with me and our audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Modern Marketing Messages. Check out below for more information about this episode and AmericanEagle.com's digital marketing services. This podcast is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. I'm Taylor Karg, and we'll be back with another Modern Marketing Message.